guys, welcome back to my channel, Michi Makes Up. It's been a while since I've been able to sit down to film a video, so I'm really excited that I can find some time today to do this. And the product I'm also really excited about. This is the latest from Chanel. It is their Eye and Face palette, Tendresse or Tenderness. There's actually two released, two Eye and Face palettes. The other is Character, and I'll have a photo here along with swatches. It's for medium tan to deeper skin tones, and then Tenderness is for light to medium skin tone. There are no specific names to the shades here. On the back, really, it's labeled right here. It's just labeled as dark, light, medium, medium. And because it's eye and face, I will complete a look today, or demo this today, to do an eye look and face. So it really has everything you need in terms of both eyeshadow and face. This would be used for a highlighter. I'll swatch all of them. This would be for bronzer, although I'm not sure it would work for me during the summer, but for winter or fall winter, it's definitely okay. And then this would be blush. This could also be used for blush too, which I haven't tried yet. So maybe we'll try that today in this video. I was able to wear this twice before filming this, and I do have some thoughts on it. It looks very beautiful in person. When the first photos surfaced online before the actual launch here, there was just so much excitement because it looks gorgeous in the photos and it looks beautiful in person. But I think you'll be a little bit surprised at the color payoff. So let me just get right into the swatches. But even then, it has a characteristic of the kind of light Chanel color payoff, or the softness. I mean, the salmon or coral color is very light. Something to note as I demo these. This is the highlight. So I'll get right into the eye look. I'm gonna start with this shade here, and I'm going to place it all over the lids. And as far as coral or salmon shades go, like, you can see how light this is. I have coverage, but it's not unlike some of the other Chanel eyeshadows that I've tried. And you can build on it, and I think it's satisfactory, but it's pretty light. I'm curious if some of you guys have this palette already and you have fair or very light skin tone, how this appears on you. Next, I'm going to this deep shade, and I'm placing that onto the outer corner. So I'm just creating a very classic eyeshadow look with it, because I do want to demonstrate how it's possible to complete a look, to create a complete look using what we're given. And then I'm going to blend this out, actually, just a bit. And then I'm taking this shimmery shade and just popping that on the upper lash line. And then I'm going to take this brown shade, which we've seen in the swatches to be pretty light, and I'm placing that under the lower lash line. Just add some smoke to this. Then I'm going to go back into this deep shade. Just do that. A little bit of tight line. Then finally, I'm just going to pop more of this onto the inner corners. Okay, so that is the eye look, and I did go a little bit more dramatic than I did during the weekday before I before I sat down for this today because I work to work. And I would say the colors are beautifully blended and you can definitely build on them, but I feel like it does take some work, even compared to other Chanel eyeshadows that I have in my collection. It is definitely on the lighter side, and I can see why that is, because these shades need to work on the face too. So I can't see Chanel releasing blushes that are like super pigmented. On the first go, they definitely have blushes that build beautifully, but not pigmented with a first application. So that's the vibe I'm getting here. Now let's actually test it out on this cheeks, and I want to show you how it turns out. To begin, I'm going into this shade here, and I am getting as much color as I can. So it's pretty light. I'm not upset at that, but it definitely takes a few applications to build the shade up. And then because I haven't done this previously, I'm very curious how this deep shade will appear on my light to medium skin tone. I'm actually gonna layer this around here, kind of like the model, how the model had her makeup done, or has her makeup done in the promotional photos for these palettes, how she had the red right here. I'd like to do something similar. Let's see here. And I'm going with a very fluffy brush from Sonia G, her Sky Face set. This is the soft cheek, because if I make a mistake, I wouldn't have a ton of product to wipe off. Okay, so I feel a little bit more confident after giving this a first application. I'm just gonna work this product up here. Okay, so this is what it looks like, the deep shade, and using a very fluffy brush. Very airy, not densely packed, has a lot of give. And so going in probably 2-3 times here, this is what I got. And that's about as much as I want. If there was any deliberate need to go in, I would probably use, you know, even a brush like this that's denser, much more packed, to deliver, and also is good for blending. But this is, I'm pretty happy with this. I like to try out the highlight now, or the shimmer shade as highlight. For lips, I'm taking Chanel's Rouge Velvet Allure in number 63 Essentiel. I think it's going to be a good match. I do like this berry shade with makeup. Just makes it a little bit more dramatic. Okay, with comparisons, let's go into Chanel first and then cross brand. So I have here, because the first thing when I saw Tendresse, I just thought of this Chanel product from, I think 3 years ago now. It is their blush and highlight duo, a limited edition, just like this palette. This palette's also limited edition. You see the similarities between these two shades and this, so I gotta swatch it for you. What we're gonna find is that the two shades, or the products on this palette, is more intense. Still soft like we're used to from Chanel, but more intense. So this is the highlight, and then this is the blush. But they are similar. It's that same kind of coral The two highlights, I would say on camera, it's kind of hard to see the difference totally, but looking at it like this is pinker, and this is more coral, more orange, more coral, pinker. And then as for the blushes, so we're really looking at this shade here from the Eye and Face palette versus the Blush and Highlight Duo. This is also pinker and actually more pigmented and more intense. I do have a video reviewing this. It's no longer available, but if you are interested, you can check out my Chanel playlist below. Has all my Chanel makeup videos and handbags too. So I would say if you had missed out on this and had been looking for it or interested, you're not gonna really get dupes from this palette. Although the highlight, I think there's enough similarities. This shade is actually quite a bit different. When I saw this, it also reminded me of, from the same collection, this Blush and Highlighter Duo, the two quads that were released. It never made it to North America. Actually, it never made it to North America. But I constantly think about it and like, man, when are we gonna see something similar? And I thought maybe these would be comparable. I don't think so. I think, you know, if there are similar shades from those two quads, and if I manage to find photos of them, I'll put it up above. But I think they're just going to be more pigmented. I think this relatively is soft. Now, I do think it does the job. It gives you a beautiful, completed eye look you can create from the palette. The products on the face also look beautiful, but you saw that I needed to go in a couple of times to get this kind of payoff. And worth noting too is that I have studio lighting, which, you know, contrasts or highlights the makeup a little bit more. If I were to go in the daylight, it's going to be a bit softer. And I would show you what it looks like, but I'm actually filming in the evening right now, so don't have the ability to show you. But of the times I did wear it during the daytime, it was quite soft. The next Chanel product I want to get into is their powder bronzer. And I want to show you, which by the way is scented. This palette is not scented. I'm really happy about that. I do love occasionally a soft scent from makeup, definitely not lipstick unless it's either that sweet cookie scent or mint. But I just appreciate that this is not scented, this palette. So this is the powder bronzer they released last summer. And it's in the shade medium. It's a very beautiful product. You can see as I did my first swatch, like how much of the product kind of just caked on, was very flaky, but instantly it just blends out, diffuses like silk. Super, super soft, very easy to work with. There is a difference. This here is redder than this one. This is much cooler in comparison. And speaking of which, I actually did not add the shade as bronzer. So let me do that. Let me do that right now. Okay, I'm gonna use my Rephr 22 as an all over bronzer shade, or bronzer for all over, to warm up the complexion. All right, I went really light using a big fluffy brush. I think it does do the job. It just gives me a little bit of color, but not too much. And so if I were to go heavy hand by accident, I could get away with it. So it probably wouldn't work very well for me during the summertime, again, because it's so light, but fall, winter, it is perfect. And I do have another work event. There's been a lot of work events recently, but I have another one coming up, and this is a first spot contender to take with me because everything I need is in here. And for other comparisons, I'm going to move off of Chanel brands. We're going to take a look at others. I have here another powder bronzer from Victoria Beckham. It's the Bronzing Brick, and this is an 02. So I'm just curious how closely the shade might, it's not going to be close. It's actually closer to the Chanel powder bronzer, but this one also blends beautifully. Both of these are matte powder bronzers. They're actually quite similar to each other. And then there's actually a deeper shade from this bronzing brick, and this is Soleil. This is Soleil. This is Honey. Let's take a look at Honey. Honey is more similar to this because it is redder, warmer. Honey on this palette is meant to be used as a contour. So if you are curious about this, I also have a dedicated video when this first launched, but I do quite like this palette. So yeah, I think there's some similarities. However, the formulation is going to be different, not just in that, you know, Victoria Beckham Beauty they lean further into cleaner ingredients, or that's kind of like one of the value props of the brand. It's a clean beauty brand, and Chanel is not. However, the other difference is also these are Beiges products, and this is powder. And speaking of Beiges, I'm gonna take a look at compare my go-to bronzer from Chantecaille in Real Bronze, the shade Serena. This is also a Beiges product. Wow, interesting. I feel like the warmth of these two are very close. This has a hint of orange, coral in comparison. Yeah, this is probably a touch cooler than this shade. And my last bronzer is actually a cream product from Charlotte Tilbury. It's their Sun Kiss Glow Bronzer in 01. And this is the compact. And this bronzer I also enjoy. Yeah, I would say these bronzers here are all pretty similar to each other with some difference, you know, in the coolness and in some of the undertones, but this is not unlike any of the others, which is interesting. Actually, maybe this bronzer is going to work during the summertime too, if I can build it up, because the Chantecaille one will work on me during the summer, and these will too, so from Victoria Beckham. So I'm really interested to try this out once I get some sun on my skin in the next few months. My final comparison is going to be from Mob Beauty. This color story here, the Cheek and Eye products, is a collaboration with Beautylish. So we have a cream blush, highlighter, and then 4 eye shades. I feel that this whole vibe, at least these 4 shades, have or call to what this palette is offering. Like this kind of color story is, we're getting a version of that here. So I'm gonna swatch these 4 and we'll just see how similar they are. I think I'm gonna call it, because from what I remember, I haven't gone back to this palette in a while, is that everything here, except maybe for this shade, is pretty pigmented. So this is the cream blush. Oh yeah, very similar. In fact, let me do another swatch right above it. Okay, well, now that they're sitting on top of each other, they're not that similar. Sorry, that was misleading. When I was looking from all the way down here, it felt like they were. So they're next to each other. This is more brown leaning, and this is much more of a berry or wine shade. All right, for the other 3 shades, the highlighter, and then the 2 eyeshadows. So this is the highlighter. Why don't I do it here? highlighter is similar-ish. It's probably closer to that limited edition Chanel highlighter blush duo from earlier, that comparison, but it's similar. This is a bit more pink than the one from the palette we're looking at now. And then for the two eyeshadow colors, so this is that salmon color or coral color we saw up from here, and it's way more pigmented. This one is definitely lighter, more orangey. This one's pinker. And then that deeper shimmer shade I will swatch up here too. I'm just curious, side by side, what they look like. You know, I feel like the shade is closer to this than it would appear on the pan. This does have a shimmer finish, while this is like a matte, a satiny matte, but it's a matte. It's just that it's baked gelée, so it looks like really smooth. This is a shimmer finish, and they're kind of similar to each other once this is blended. Well, overall, what I can say about the Mauve Beauty x Beautylish collaboration palette is that it has the same color story idea as Chanel's Tendresse palette. Some of these shades are more pigmented. Actually, they're overall more pigmented than what we can find here. And then obviously the textures are going to be different. And while these are all Beiges gelée, this is cream, and these are powders down here. Overall, I think the palette is really beautiful, and I think it does live up to the hype if you weren't expecting very pigmented shades. These are great if you're not expecting a ton of pigment, and they are buildable. They're beautiful, easy to build, and it's hard to make a mistake on them if you feel like, oh, I'm 3 or 4 layers in, is that maybe too much? Likely you'll be okay. I mean, you can see here, I'm just getting a good amount of color from it. You will have to spend a little bit more time because of the buildup, and if you are into lighter makeup anyway, lighter payoff, because that's what you enjoy, I think this is just a great palette too. So glad I got the time to film today, and I'm really happy that I got to share this with you. Let me know what you think below, and if you think you're going to pick up the palette. I am interested in the other color story, but likely just with the amount of makeup that I've amassed over the last couple of years, I'd probably be smart to sit out on that one. Yeah, love to hear your thoughts. I will talk to you guys very soon. Bye.